So I'm going to see how fast I can go from zoom mode to primes mode, like prime/handheld mode. So I'm going to clear some of this stuff out and I'm going to set a timer and see how fast I can do it. I'm going to try to get it I could definitely get it under 5 minutes. I'm going to see if I can get it to like 3 minutes. I'm not going to rush. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to do everything properly and safe. But I have a plan that we kind of talked about. Remember, we have to switch some of these motors and lose some of these motors. So I'm going to see if I can do it under 5 or under 3. So let's see what we can do. The reason why I want to time myself, this is not something I normally do at a prep. I don't really time myself. Because I've been doing this for so long, I have a pretty good idea of how long it's going to take me to switch over from one build to the other, depending on, like I said, every build is going to be different from job to job, but I have a good idea of how long it's going to take me to move from one build to the other. So this is not something I'd normally do, but if you're just starting out, this is something you should definitely practice when you're at the prep. Just take the time, get your builds figured out, do one complete build, get it figured out, and then like we did, do the zoom build, get it completely figured out, and then you're going to know what you're going to have to do to switch, and then time yourself switching from one mode to the other, or even going from one mode and back to the other. Not all in one time, but like go from the zoom build to the prime build, and then time yourself going from the prime build to the zoom build. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So I have my zoom case right here. All right, see, I've got my stopwatch here. I'll put it down here. So I'm going to make sure I have all the stuff that I need to put this zoom away and all the accessories. So I have my zoom case on the floor right here next to the camera. So that's a good thing to do when you're on set. Have your second AC bring the zoom lens case, so that way you can just start putting all the accessories in it, because you want to keep them all together. I'm going to start it, and I'm going to even take the Microforce off, do all of this. So it's completely ready to go for studio, or I'm not going to put the handles on. I'm just going to have it ready to go for studio mode. All right, ready, set, go. Scared myself a little bit there. The motor's tilted. All right, so we've got the zoom down. Let's put this in our case. Start taking the rods off. Put those in the case. We can lose, this motor can go in the case. We're gonna need we're going to need our focus motor. So remember, we have these adapters that go in because we were 19 mil, so now we're going to go 15 mil. Just put that here for now. And we have to change mounts. So let me get that mount. All right, so we got the mount. Don't worry, I didn't do any editing shenanigans there. All right, put the mount, and then a lot of this stuff I'd be handing to the second, and they'd be putting this away. So for now, for me, I'm just setting it in a safe spot. So let's grab a prime. Let's grab the 25 mil. Let's throw that on. Oh, I forgot. We're losing this motor. So this motor's coming off because it has the gear, different pitched gear. Also, because this thing is bad on that one zoom, I have to take this one. But on the day, I would, like I said, you want to swap that out, because you don't want to be doing what I'm doing right now. I've just lost a lot of time. And now I have to remember what my configuration was for this motor. let's do it on this side. So here, it's just gonna come in like this. Get that tight. Now we can throw our focus on. Make sure that's good. All right, and then I can throw, you could leave, I would leave this zoom cable on for the MDR if we're gonna be going to it, like on a crane or something. I would just leave it so I don't have to put a new one on or put it on and off every time. So we're gonna just keep it, I'm just tidying it up. Where's the, oh yeah, so our focus is over here. So let's bring it in. Keep it tidy. That's not where we had it last time, we had it here. All right, make sure this is tight. All right, we're good there. All right, so now let's lose the microforce. Put that in our case. Grab our regular pan handle. And now we just need our clip-on nut box. It's missing some trays, so we'll throw our trays in. Now, again, the second AC would have this stuff ready to go on the day. So I'm not doing some of this. Like the trays should already be in here. And ideally, while I'd be doing a lot of this stuff, they would be putting the filters that we had in the Zoom, the same matching filters from the Zoom, into this matte box. Let's see. All right, so I think, and then now we can bring this forward, and then we can just choose our lens and our press in, and we're good to go. So we're back studio mode with the primes, and I did it in 5 minutes and 22 seconds. So I think on set, I would probably tell them I can do it in like 5 minutes. I can realistically do it faster because I was fumbling with a couple things, and I did forget that we were losing this iris motor. So I could definitely shave off some time, but I would just give them an estimate of 5 minutes. And if I was like really, really hustling, I could do it in 3 minutes. And again, you want to do it all safe. Don't be like being reckless with the gear, especially the lenses. But you know, the faster you are, you know, the better you'll be able to get that transition. It's that old saying, you know, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's kind of what you want to do. Get it right the first time. Because if I was more smooth and didn't have to deal with all these little things like the trays and forgetting about this motor, I could just smoothly go through it and I'd be a lot faster. Now, you know, I went from the zoom to the primes in 5 minutes. It is easier to go away from the zoom than it is to put it on because you have to take more time when you're putting that lens on because you have to be, you want to be even more careful. So putting things on is a little bit slower than taking off, but personally, I would still give an estimate of 5 minutes for a changeover from primes to zoom or from zoom to primes. Another thing you're going to be doing at the prep is going through your camera settings and choosing your resolution and codec and all of that. That's information you're going to get from the post-production department. A lot of times you'll get an email from post saying like these are the specs that they want for all the camera settings. But then sometimes that might get overridden by the production or the DP or even the director. So make sure you're getting, always double check with, I would say the DP to make sure that you're doing the specs that you need to do. And if they defer you to the post specs, then just, do the post specs. So we're gonna pretend on this one, we're gonna be shooting Airy Raw at 3.4 open gate. So that's what we've got this one set up for. Now, otherwise you could be, you could do a ProRes Quad 4 XQ or Quad 4. Usually those are the three flavors that you're gonna be using the most. Now I'm not going to go into like deep menus on this camera. This is just to get you like a general basic setup. And then a lot of times, most of the time, your DIT will come over and they'll know all of these settings and specs that they need to be set to, and they'll come in and they'll handle all of the settings for you. And then just before you shoot, make sure you double check that the DIT has set up all of the cameras the way that they're supposed to be. But just to get you where you're at on your prep, because it is good to know, like we were going through the lenses, it's good to know what resolution you're gonna be shooting at, because that's gonna change your field of view. So we're gonna say, like I said, we're gonna be at Area Raw, Open Gate 3.4K. So, and then let's say, and then they're gonna say what frames we're shooting at. So we're gonna be 23,976. And then, you know, obviously just keep your shutter 180, white balance, it can be to whatever you want right now, it doesn't matter, just balance it to the room. And then, you know, 800 ASA, those are just the standards. And then for looks, this is where we put our LUTs. There may be times where a DP will email you a LUT, a lookup table file to load onto the camera. And the way we do it on the Mini is there is this little dongle here that goes in just under the card, the media in the camera. You just go in here and you add, and then obviously there's no, it's not in there, so you just choose USB and you can select each file. And then, you know, to put it on this, you just put it in your computer and then load up the correct file format. Now, it's a little bit different for the different cameras, but that's how you basically do it. Most of the time, you're not gonna have to worry about that. The DIT will be either creating a LUT on set or at the prep or before the prep, and they'll load it up, or they may be doing like a live grade, which is a whole another scenario. So it's not something you will have to do all the time, but just be ready that you know, just ask the DP like, hey, do you have a specific LUT that you want to throw in? And a lot of times, you know, these cameras have LUTs from ARRI loaded in them already, so they might want to just use one of these LUTs that are already in. So a lot of people like to use like the commercial LUT as a good LUT, you know, whatever LUT the DP wants to use, or they might just use straight 709, so they might not even do a LUT at all. Now for media, we go in here, media, we can erase our media, and then we're going to set up our buttons here on the side of the camera. There's these little shortcut buttons on the side that we can program to do whatever we want, basically. The standard that a lot of people like, and that I do at every prep, is I go through, and here, let's go home, let's go to menu, let's go to user buttons, and then we'll go down to camera user buttons, and then button 1 is the top button here with the little arrow pointing out. So we're gonna make that one, if we scroll down to ND increase. So that way we can quickly and easily up the ND in the internal NDs in the camera. And then for button 2, which is just below 1, we're going to do ND decrease. And then for button 3, a lot of people like to have, like the DP and the DITs like this to see, they like to do SDI check log C. So what that does, it enables us, if we look on the camera, so here I'll just pull up the monitor on here. So if we hit our 1 key that we just set, now we just went up 1 ND. So now we are at ND 6. You can see it down here in the bottom, really low, really little. So if you hit it again, we'll go to 1.2, and then one more time, we'll go to 2.1. So now we can just do that really quick. And then if you hit up one more time, it'll go back to clear. But, you know, let's say, you know, you're at a 1.2 and the DP says, hey, let's drop down to an internal 6. Instead of hitting 1 2 more times, just go down, hit 2. Now it just goes down 1. So that's why we have both of them set up that way. Now for check log C, so so right now I have it set up in check log C in SDI. So it's not going to do it on this monitor here, because this is it has its own separate setting. It also has its own button for it. You can program up top. So what we're going to do is I'll just bring in this monitor here, and we'll see what it does for check log C. Hopefully you can see. If you it takes away the 709 LUT, and it shows you the log C of the camera. So here, let me turn this around. I'll show it with the GoPro. I might be able to see it better that way. So right now we're looking at 709. Okay. So then we've got that button setups, we hit 3, now we're looking at log C. We're looking at that flat image that's going straight to the card. That's the image that we're shooting. And then if we hit it again, we turn it off, now we're looking at it with the LUT. So what's going to the card is log C. We're just putting it's called a lookup table on top of that to get an idea of how we want it to look in the end product. That's why people will create custom LUTs and then load those LUTs, because that's how they want the image to look in post, in the final color, or as close to it as they can get it. And you want to shoot that way on set so that you're getting the look that you want instead of just ballparking it. You want to, through that whole process, the DP wants to be as accurate as they can be with the look that they're using. So it's not wildly changing from production to post-production, and that they can get the desired look that they want. So there's buttons on the top here. There's a monitor button, so that changes the monitor to the settings. And then there's programmable buttons. And then there's also, if we go back to monitor, there's an exposure button, and that shows false color. And that's showing our different exposures here on this camera right now. So green is like pretty good. It's like close to like middle gray or something. I forget the chart. Blue is okay. Purple is where we're starting to get in like we're losing detail. And then you can also turn on peaking. There's a little bit of peaking on there, but most of the time you're not using that. You'll probably use the false color more than anything. And then sometimes DPs like to have different things programmed up here. So they might say, hey, when you're prepping, program such and such on these buttons. I've had that happen a few times. But in general, you want to, at the very minimum, if you're doing an Alexa Mini or even a Mini LF, the Mini LF has even more buttons, and the Alexa 35, they have more customizable buttons on the side. So just program them how you think you would, or how you like it, or how the DP or operator likes it. You can start out your way, and if this is kind of the standard way of doing 1 and 2 as the NDs and 3 as SDI check logs C. So that's pretty standard. And then for the other ones, you can do whatever you want or the operator wants or anything like that. So I'm going to show you a couple little tricks if you don't have the viewfinder on for some reason. If you're like Steadicam or you're doing some rig and you have to pull this off, like gimbal or something like that, you can come over here. If you want to get into playback, you can hold down the function button here and then hit 3, and then now you're in playback. And then you can hit 3 again to like play that clip, and then just hit function 3 again to get out of it. Also, you can format the card from these buttons, but there's a little bit of a warning. When you do it this way, if you don't use the viewfinder, that erase card prompt that comes up on this monitor here is also going to come up and go out to the SDI, to all the monitors on set. And I've had people freak out when that happens. Like, people were sitting at the client village and they were like, no, wait, don't do it. Because they weren't paying attention. They were just all on their computers, and then they happened to look up and see that we were formatting a card because we didn't have the viewfinder on, and they freaked out, they panicked. But I just went over, I was like, it's okay guys, we're reloading, it's okay, there's nothing to worry about. And they were like, oh, thank God. So just be aware that people might freak out if you do this. So if you hold down function and you press 2, you're gonna get a prompt that says, press the 3 button 2 times, and then it'll erase it. So now it's erasing the card. And if you look here, it's even coming up here on this monitor here that's going out for the tear deck. So everyone's gonna see that. So make sure, be ready for maybe a possible freak out. And then to get rid of it, you just hit any of the buttons, and then now it'll clear and you're good to go. And that's just a quick little way to format the cards. It works on the Mini LF. I haven't tried it on that works on the regular Mini. I actually don't know if it works on the Mini LF. I would imagine I think it does. And then I don't know about the Alexa 35. But the Alexa 35 has a little screen on the side, so you don't really have to worry about it that much. So it's just a little trick you can do. So if another setting because we're using the Preston, we don't have to worry about this, but if you're using the Arri WCU or a Hi-5, you're gonna have to come down to, so if you go to the menu, and this is true for, I believe all the minis, you have to make sure that your electronic control system, the ECS, is turned on. So by default, when these cameras go through QC, they reset them, so it's turned off. So you have to turn it on and then choose what channel you want it to be on. So that's like the Preston channel we were choosing. So this is the channel that you would choose for that handset. And then obviously if you're US, keep it in the US. And then now the the hand unit, the WCU or the Hi-5 will talk directly to the camera because the camera acts as its own MDR. Like the Preston, we have that MDR box because it doesn't have a way to talk through to the camera that way. But obviously it's ARRI's whole system is that the camera becomes its own MDR and works with their motors and their handsets, which is nice. Which is the way that I prefer. I prefer to use when I'm doing ARRI, minis in the Alexa 35. I like to use the Hi-5 or the WCU. Well, I don't have a locket box here, but to do time code, we just hit this TC up here. We hit the button here, and then we're going to go to options, and then you want it to be in free run, and then you'll do jam sync to jam it. Okay, so let's see, what else can we do? So white balance, we have our different white balances, and you can add, and you can do custom, however you want. And then you can do the tint as well, green and magenta. You can also do auto, but you want to have a white card in front of the camera. So if we press auto, it's right here. So we hit auto white balance here. This little box is going to pop up. I'll show you. It'll pop in through the SDI. So this little box will pop up, and you want that box filled with white from the light that you're going to be using to white balance. So you hit it, and then you'll just hit it again. And then luckily, because we have this white from the board, it caught it. And so it'll auto white balance, and it'll tell you exactly what that white balance is. So if you look here, it went to 3460 minus 7.6 green, because these fluorescents are like super green. So it had to dial out a lot of the green for us. So that's a lot of times when we're doing two cameras, we'll auto white balance to the same source so that the cameras match, and we'll see what the difference is in the white balance. So one of them might be, this one might read 3460, but then another camera might read 3860 or something around that. And so then we know, okay, those cameras are at least a few hundred or 400 Kelvin off. So that will be our base. So then the DP will say, okay, let's go up 500 Kelvin. So then you'll go up from this number that's on your camera that you've set as your base, or go down, whatever they want to do, up or down. And then you'll generally keep the tint the same. And then when you get to a new setup and it's new lighting, you'll do it again, because then you'll probably be a different tint and obviously a different color of light. NDs, you can control the NDs from the monitor here. You hit ND, and then you can choose in the corners which ones you want, so we can clear out. But we have these quick buttons set up. It's the fastest way to do it. And then our shutter, we can do the different shutters. And you can add a specific shutter. You can really dial in basically any shutter you want down to a decimal. So like decimal of whatever, you can dial it in. And we do that for getting flicker out of lights or screens or things like that. Sometimes you have to dial them in. In addition to all the shooting specs, they're also going to have what aspect ratio they're going to want to use for that project, whether it's going to be 16:9 or it's going to be, we're going to shoot spherical, but we're going to frame for 240 or 239. They also might want 9:16 ticks, like little lines that don't go all the way through the frame, but will just be little ticks up here and here. And we do that a lot nowadays for social and all that stuff, which, nobody likes that, but we have to do it. So, but to do that, to add the ticks, we would have to get our DIT to make custom frame lines and load them with our little dongle, because there's no way to add custom lines like that in camera on the Mini and the Mini LF. And I don't know what the Alexa, I haven't worked the Alexa 35 enough yet to know if you can do custom frame lines in there or not. But if you want to get like super custom, either way, you're going to have to load them in. And it's a lot faster that way too, because ARRI has a website or a tool where you can just quickly put all your specs and then put in what lines you want. You can do the shading, the color, all that stuff. So, if you're not doing basic frame guides, then you're going to have to get the DIT to do it, because here's all the difference. So you can do, like this is a flat 239. So if we come back, we see our lines, our white line here. Let me change the color. You can change the color of the line. So let's change the color so you can see it a little bit better. Let's go red. So if we go here, we see like a little red line at the top and bottom. And you can even change the intensity. So we can bring the intensity up, and then we'll go back. So like even 185, See here, we've got our 185 line. Typically, if you're doing multicam, you want, do the camera colors, like red is A, blue is B, yellow C, green D, and then kind of go make it up from there. Those are generally the basic standard colors for the different cameras. But if you're just doing single cam, you can keep them white or red or whatever color you want, honestly. But I generally just do white. What we want to do is with our frame rate, so if we want to go to our menu, we go to our recording, and then we go to project settings here. This is going to be our base. We need to make sure we know what our base frame rate is. So even though we may do off speed, we're always doing it at a base of 23,976. So we've got our project rate set to that. So if we go back, if we go to the home screen, and now if we change our frames per second, now we're going off speed. But in OpenGate, the fastest we can go off speed is 30 frames. So now the FPS and the timecode are going to highlight, because when it's doing off speed, it's not going to record any sound and it's not going to do any timecode. And then for our frames, it's highlighted because that means it's off speed. We're doing slow-mo now. Or if we were to go, you can even do, if you want to go lower, we can add custom frame rates. So if we want to go to like 18 frames, 18, there we go. So we can add it to the list and we can choose it. And so now it's doing it again. Because we're off speed, they're highlighted again because we're not at our base and we're not getting timecode or jammed timecode because we're off speed. I think that pretty much covers a lot of what you need to do to get the camera at least pretty close to shooting ready. Those are, an important thing. One more thing is if you're doing some stuff where you need to flip the sensor, maybe the camera is upside down or you're shooting 90 degrees down and you need to flip the sensor. We did this on a job just recently. We were shooting straight 90 degree down, looking at someone playing a piano, and we had to flip the sensor to get the image the way that we wanted. And when we do that, it's flipping it in the record. So on the card, it's going to be the way that we're seeing it on the card, so that in post they don't have to do anything. So you're not like guessing what it's going to look like. We just come in here and we go to System, and we go to Sensor, and then we're going to scroll down to Mirror Image, and then depending on what you're doing, you can do vertical and horizontal. So now it's completely upside down, right? But it's mirrored. So if I look forward, this is actually on my left, but here it's on the right. So now if we go back and we just do horizontal, now it's mirrored the image, but normal, vertically, right? So then we can go and just do vertical. So now it's just flipped it upside down. It's mirrored it upside down. And then obviously we can come back and turn it off. So that's a good thing to know off the bat if you're going to be doing any like weird like orientation kind of stuff, upside down or looking straight down, or whatever you need to flip the sensor. Or if you're going like Steadicam and they're just going to throw it into low mode really quick, they're just going to tilt the arm down. You can go in and you can just flip the sensor, and then that way you don't have to like flip your monitors upside down and all that stuff. You just flip it straight from the camera. I think that covers most of our settings that are good to know when you're at the prep, and like just go through and make sure they're all good to go. Also, like I said, this is a good time to, like, if you don't know a camera, go through all the menus, figure out where everything is, what it does, how it works. This is the time to learn, not tomorrow when you're shooting. You don't want to be like, hold on, and you're like trying to figure it out and you're searching through the menus. Even just learning the menus. I've been using this camera for a long time. This camera's been out for many, many years. And so like, I don't use it as much anymore because we use the LF and the 35, but it just instinctually comes back and you just remember where everything is. So go through the menus and learn where everything is, so that way when you're on set, you can just boom, 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 get right to the setting you need to get to and change it. And no one's waiting for you on set to shoot. All right, so I think that covers our settings.